So welcome back. I hope that previous section made you feel good about public health, because we're about to get into the bad. We're about to tell you about the leading causes of death and what public health tells us about them and how public health thinks about them and what we know. So let's look at this chart that shows the leading causes of death in the United States in 1900 versus 2011. So you see 1900 on the left and 2011 on the right. And there's one thing that I hope as you look at this stands out. We identified with an asterisk the infectious diseases. In 1900, the top 3 leading causes of death were all infectious diseases. And in 2011, there's only one infectious disease, influenza and pneumonia, that comes in at number 8. So we've seen over the course of the 20th century a major shift in what is killing us. We have, for the most part, brought under control infectious diseases, although we're always worrying about those, and that's now a global enterprise in terms of disease trackers and disease chasers going all over the world to try to identify new agents and try to control them. But we have moved in this century to a new era, and it's the era where the leading causes of death are chronic diseases, are non-infectious diseases. And so sometimes we refer to them as NCDs, non-communicable diseases, things like heart attacks and strokes and cancer. Those are the biggest ones, and there are others as well, as you can see from this list. So we've seen significant changes. We see, for example, diabetes is on the list now. That wasn't there in 1900. So there are changes that go on. And so, you know, we're never going to get to a place where people stop dying. And so people are always going to die of something. It's a question of what you're going to die from, but it's also a question of what can we do in terms of what we know that is killing people that reduces the likelihood of death and creates a better standard of living. We have longer life expectancy, but we also have longer periods in which people are living with significant and serious chronic diseases. Just to sort of hit again on the theme of the decline of infectious disease, here you can see the decline in tuberculosis and influenza. Again, this goes from 1900 to the late 1960s, but you can see all of the infectious diseases, particularly TB and influenza, have had significant declines. And this provides some of the data behind that dramatic shift that you saw from the prior slide. But now here's a slide that I'd really like to show you, because this is a slide that gets public health folks very excited. So if you look at the leading causes of death on the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see the familiar list that you saw from the earlier slide: heart disease and cancer. By the way, cancer is growing and heart disease is slowing. Heart disease is still number 1, but cancer is chasing it on its heels. And then you see all of the others, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, kidney disease. But then if you look at the right-hand column, what you see is the actual causes of death as defined by public health folks. So, you know, people die of heart disease and people die of cancer, but what are they really dying of? What are they doing that's making them get heart disease and cancer? Well, what are they doing? They're smoking, they're eating very bad diets, they're not engaged in physical activity, they're drinking too much, they're engaging with firearms, they're engaging in illicit drug use. So these are the factors, and so if we want to move to influence the column on the left from a public health perspective, we don't want to focus on the left-hand column, we want to focus on the right-hand column, because that's actually what's killing us. It's not heart disease, it's use of tobacco, it's smoking, those kinds of things. And so that's the important lesson, the important takeaway in terms of what's killing us, what's making us ill, what's giving us chronic illness, and what we need to focus on to try to achieve improvement.